Hello, everybody. Father Scott Vanderveer here with another installment in our series on beautiful hope, with the topic this time of hope being found in the church and in our faith. Faith is a touchstone for so many of us. It is the thing we return to again and again that allows us to say, as long as God is still in heaven, as long as God is King of heaven and earth, whom shall I fear? If the Lord, as the psalm says, is my light and my salvation, of whom should I be afraid? Those kind of bedrock feelings that are contained within our faith come from a very rock-solid source. It's not just this understanding of God being a loving presence in the world, but it's more than that. It's the deep undergirding of what it means to believe in one God. We Christians are monotheists, the way many other religious traditions are as well, like Islam and Judaism. We believe in one God. We don't believe that there are rival gods that are trying to control our lives and the world. We believe in one, totally sovereign, totally all-knowing, all-caring, all-powerful. So when we have that understanding of just one reality, one source of life for all things, one maker, one creator, one unifier, when we see things that way, it means that a lot of our fears about evil start to not make sense in the traditional way we think of them. A lot of us spend a lot of time worrying about evil things happening, evil people taking over. We might spend a lot of time worrying that we will give in to evil and wind up not getting to spend eternity with God. A lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about the devil and about hell. That's a really interesting topic for us to look at, because while there is something very important to us about knowing that whatever we can experience also has an opposite. Where there is light, there is darkness. Where there is good, there is also bad. Where there is caring, there is also apathy. You can't have one without the other. But monotheism means that there is no rival God out there prowling around the universe looking for us. There's no rival God. There is no rival to God. God is completely, overwhelmingly sovereign in all things. So, a lot of us don't realize it, but we spend a lot of time and energy thinking of life as being a struggle between God and the devil. We think of it as being a struggle between light and darkness, and we think, is good going to prevail in the end? What if evil prevails in the end? The thought, what if evil prevails in the end, is a tempting one, especially when we watch the news and see all sorts of calamities that always make it feel like we're living in the worst times ever. Have you ever noticed that? It always feels like, has there ever been another period of history as dark and difficult and scary as the one we're in? That's a pretty typical feeling for a lot of us. But let's be honest about this. If God is the only God, that means that whatever is not God does not have the power that God does. The devil is not a rival God to God. The devil is not a rival God. The devil is completely overwhelmed by the power of God, just as everything in all creation is. So monotheism requires us to know that there's not a war going on between good and evil might win. No. Monotheism requires us to believe that God is the ultimate. One way that a lot of us have come to understand what this means in our life in a practical way can be talked about through three different analogies. The three analogies are this. If God is God, then what is evil? If God is all good and all knowing and all loving and all powerful, then what is going on with evil? We know that evil exists. We see it. Three analogies can help us with this. The first one is heat and cold. When I was a student in high school, I remember learning that there is no such thing scientifically as cold. Cold doesn't have a reality. It's the absence of heat. Cold is the absence of heat. The way you measure cold is by how much heat is missing, not by how much cold is present. Cold goes away whenever heat shows up. Heat is the actor. Heat has all the power. Heat is the force. Cold is not a force. Cold is just the absence of heat. So there's no such thing as cold in a sense. It's just the distance we are from a heat source. How does that affect our understanding of good and evil? Here's another. Noise and silence. Silence is golden, but it's so fragile because anything interrupts the silence. Everything that makes any noise at all scatters silence. We don't measure silence, we measure sound. Silence is the absence of sound. It's not a presence, it's an absence. The third analogy is light and darkness. Have you ever tried to sleep on a bright sunny morning? It's really hard. It's really hard to get the right kind of blinds that can shut out the light. As you can see, it's not a particularly bright day right now, but the light is still coming through these blinds. Now, these are not the most opaque blinds there are in the world, but you know how much effort it takes to find true light blocking blinds. Even a little bit of light from a tiny little light on our electronic device or a little sensor on the thermostat in the corner of the room can make the darkness not dark. Darkness is not a force. Light is. We measure the amount of darkness there is by the lack of light that there is. Isn't that interesting to think about? So evil is the absence of good. Evil is the absence of good. Evil happens when we try to get distance from good, from God. So if we want to defeat evil, we don't need to beat it with a baseball bat. We need to come closer to the goodness that is our source. You don't get rid of the darkness by beating it with a baseball bat or shooting a gun. You turn on the light. You don't remove cold by beating at it. You move near the warmth. And you don't get rid of silence by cursing it, although in a way, as soon as you do that, the silence is simply the absence of noise. So can you see that monotheism is inherently hopeful? There's no rival to God. There's only God. God alone is our strength and our hope. What a deep thought about hope and about prayer and about God. So every time we need to connect to hope through our faith, perhaps we can turn to our understanding that there is no God except for God, and the beautiful serenity that can come from recognizing, as we say in the Serenity Prayer, God, please grant me the serenity to accept all the things in life I can't change. Please give me courage to do my part, to do what I can, and give me wisdom to know the difference and pick my battles wisely. May your experience of faith in the church give you hope. And may God bless you and all of us now and always.